HR in succession planning. Let us welcome our speaker today, Mr. Chidambaram Ramanathan. Mr. Chidambaram Ramanathan has completed his master's degree in personal management and industrial relations from St. Joseph College, Trichy, and executive development program in human resource management from XLRI, Jamshedpur. He has a strong professional experience of working more than 19 years in various sectors like chemical, electronics, textiles, contraceptives, and service industries. He is currently working as a head of HR and administration for Indian Additives Limited, which is located in Chennai. Mr. Chidambaram Ramanathan has certification in compensation and benefits manager from Cortland Advanced Management Institute and secured high distinction. He also has certification in HR analytics and metrics professional. He is certified external member of POSH committee from National Institute of Personnel Management. He is a life member of National Human Resource Management Development Network and also a life member of National Institute of Personnel Management and delivers guest lectures on various subjects to eminent educational institutions. Outside work, Mr. Chidambaram Ramanathan spends his time in reading, playing badminton, and table tennis. We welcome you, sir. Now, I would like to introduce our head of the department, Human Resource Department, DG Vaishnav College, Dr. N.C. Martin. He is an highly experienced academician and has about 20 years of academic and administrative experience as an professor, HOD, dean, and registrar. He did his postgraduate in labor management and PhD in labor laws from Tamil Nadu Institute of Labor Studies. He started his career as a lecturer from the same institution. He did various he held various positions in the arts and science, engineering, and media colleges. He held academic positions in various educational institutions such as Sri Chandraprabhu Jain College as assistant professor and HOD of MSW department, SAMS College of Engineering and Technology as a professor and HOD of MBA department. He was also the placement officer for the entire division of SAMS College of Engineering and Technology. During his tenure, he successfully placed engineering and management graduates in top-notch companies of manufacturing and service sectors across the country. He continued his career in St. Joseph College of Arts and Science as a Dean of Academics and LV Prasad Film School, one of the best film schools in Asia, working as an registrar. He acted as a jury representing the Employees Federation of Southern India for the selection of companies for the best practices of the year 2018 and 2019. He has added number of research papers and publications to his credit, and he is expert in subject of labor legislations and industrial relations. He has given centum results in various HR specialized subjects in the university examinations. We welcome you, sir. This meeting is recorded for educational purposes. In case of any doubts or questions, the participants can unmute themselves or type the questions in chat box. Now I request Dr. N.C. Martin to deliver a few words for the topic of the day.
Yeah, thank you, Raghav, for the introduction.
Thank you, sir.
So, yeah, very happy, good evening to one and all present here for the webinar. So, first of all, on behalf of management, our secretary, Sri Ashok Kumar Mudraji, and our principal, uh, Captain Dr. S. Santosh Babu, I welcome all the participants, professors, students, and HR fraternities. And a very special welcome to resource person of the day,
Yeah,
Chidambaram Ramanathan, Head HR and
thank,
Admin Indian Additives Limited, Chennai. So thanks for giving your consent to host a webinar for our students on the topic role of HR in succession planning.
thank you, sir. It's my honor and pleasure. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And this is indeed, it is our 58th series of webinar. So this webinar started from the last pandemic, and now today it is 58th series of webinar.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So coming to the topic for the conception understanding, the succession planning. So we all already studied about succession planning, and we know that it is a process for identifying and developing new leadership roles. So who can replace the old leaders. So when they leave the company, so owing to retirement or when they die during the service period. So here, the planning is usually, we can say, is a process so that those who have been selected may not be knowing that they are in the list of selection. In other words, we can say that the succession planning can be defined as the process for identifying the critical roles in an organization and where the core skill which has been associated with the actual roles, and then it is identifying the possible so that the whatever the available internal candidates to assume the jobs where the incumbents leave. So in pure HR sense, we can say that succession planning is it's a very important part of talent management process. So this succession planning will provide a way to identify key roles. So the people with the right skills and position, so they may not need filling in a very short space of time. So if succession planning is properly executed, so it will reduce the cost of recruitment, and which also makes the organization to manage the recruitment within their organizations. So the succession planning also ensures that there is no leadership vacuum. So after the retirement or exit of any senior position in the company, so it will be followed in the also family business also. So in case if the responsible person dies, so the responsibility and ownership is shifted to the next person who has been identified as a suitable to run their business or the family business. So the succession planning, we can say that it is usually a long-term and a continuous and a structured process where the organization identify their top talent and they invest in the development so that they can take on a very key leadership position in any near future. So for any organization to say, we can say, to thrive in the market, so people are the most important out. So they're a very important asset. There's no doubt in that. So the focus need to be on developing the future leaders. So the organization may have a lot of good policies and good people to manage and even a good system. But if these policies and system at one point of time, so will no be, we can say it will not be in use unless there are no effective, suitable leaders to drive them and people to execute. So therefore, the we can say the leadership planning is very important, not only for the existence or survival of the organization, but also for the future expansion and growth of an enterprise. So a well-crafted and executed succession planning is very, very important. So it is very vital and it is very essential for any structured organization. So I don't want to stress much on that. And we all know that, so we are in the period of gig economy. So there are a lot of uncertainties in the market and millennial aspirations. So HR as they have a crucial role to play. So in the area of succession planning. So the key challenges lies with the HR department. So they have to develop the future leaders so who can take the ownership to meet the current challenges and the emerging trends. So the process starts by, so it's like looking at the existing leaders' skills and finding potential replacements from within or outside the organization. So here the HR has to play really a very key role because they have to identify a potential candidate, and this is posing to very great challenges for the HR team. So if there is a perfect resource available, so internally the employees then undergo training so that they can oversee the roles performed by the leader. So in most cases, we can say that so they work very closely with the person as a way of learning how to carry out the various functions of their leaders, how do they perform and all. So if you see in a very large companies, so the succession planning is a very continuous process. So they anticipated for the changes in the case of leadership. Even some organization even put in place an emergency succession plan also. This is for a short period of time. So this will also will allow for a smooth transition. So where a leader, if he resigns or if he die or something like that. So mostly the succession plan is taken on a very long term. So as the employees are in queue to take their ownership and responsibility. So here I want to stress this, the most important process of succession planning is that an organization has to identify the competency gap among their employees through a strategic succession planning. So this competency gap is the difference between the current competency level of the employees and also the required competency level. So the existing gaps may be due to lack of employees with required skills or a current needs for a key positions or key competencies, so that may be needed in the future. So the gaps will give an idea that will guide the organization. So in structuring the training or the talent management programs to make sure that employees are equipped with the required skill to perform more demanding functions in the future. So with this a short introduction, I just leave the session to a resource person, and he's the right person to explore and share his experience and expertise in the area of succession planning. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir, for the comprehensive introduction, and you have made my job very easier actually. So you have given a backdrop of succession planning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I need not concentrate much on the theory part. So anyway, thanks for the wonderful backdrop of succession planning. Yeah, you have covered everything from family-run businesses to large organizations, and you touched upon training, recruitment, competency gap, future competencies, etc. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I'll share my screen, sir. First, I'll share my screen. Madam, I'll share my screen. Just a second. Yeah, presentation is visible. Hello.
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
So, good evening to all the participants present here. So, first of all, I thank DG Vaishnava College for giving me this opportunity to share my experience in the subject succession planning. So, what we are going to see here is I have just put up in the first slide. So, it has some 9 subtitles, starting from succession planning, and Sir spoke about alignment with the other HR functions, such as learning and training, performance management, and career management. So then competence of successful succession planning. Then we'll have a case study. We'll look at a case study, so which we are going to spend more time on the case study. So then what are the common mistakes? We'll just run through that. And evaluation of SP here means succession planning. Okay, that is the abbreviation for it. Effectiveness, and we'll also see what is the difference between. Sir also spoke about emergency replacement. So we'll see about succession planning versus replacement planning. So I'll cover that there. Then we'll have a gamification at the end of the thing, the end of the session. Then we'll conclude the session. That sounds good, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can proceed, sir.
Yeah, because that is the virtual thing. That is the problem. Yeah. So slides are moving, Jagadish. Slides are moving, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's moving, sir. It's changing actually.
Yeah. So first we'll see what is succession planning. Briefly, anyway, sir has covered. Just briefly, I'll not take much of time. We'll spend more time on the case study, so you'll get practical insights. It's basically about the top 500 companies in US, and we are going to discuss about a particular company based out of US, which all of us are familiar with that company. Okay, so what is succession planning? As you see, it's basically a strategy. It is managing the talent. It is a talent management strategy. So that much is enough to put it in simple words. It is a strategy for managing the talent. So succession planning is one of the strategies to manage the talent maybe future talent needs, or any vacuum in the leadership pipeline. So that is it. It's a talent management strategy in 3 words if you have to describe it. Right. So what are the reasons for this basically? Why the succession planning is required? So basically, if you see, it's due to maybe due to retirement. Just a minute. Okay, retirement, resignations, death, new business opportunities, terminations, maybe due to poor performance, or other reasons such as maybe downsizing, etc. Company may be in a decline stage of its life cycle, and you will need to have successors, etc. So these are basically the reasons. See, what is the purpose of succession planning? One should understand that the purpose of succession planning is, if you see, basically leadership continuity. So there should be continuity in leadership. If you see many companies like HDFC, when they were finding it difficult to get a replacement for Deepak Parekh in HDFC, or in Tata for that matter, Chairman Emeritus Ratan Tata. So it's a big subject actually, even in family-run businesses. So the father, the first generation grandfather may have run the business. The father may have continued the business, but the current generation, as Sir currently pointed out, there is something called gig workers, gig economy. We are into the era of gig economy. So people do activities what they like and pursue their passions. That is the advantage of gig economy. 4 hours you do a guest lecture, or 4 hours you do a coaching job for a cricket team or a hockey team. Then the remaining 4 hours you pursue your passion, such as dance or etc. Something like that. So and the another important purpose is to avoid costly vacancies. Sir also mentioned about the cost, which we will discuss in detail actually in this presentation. Mostly about the cost we will be discussing. Yeah, it's very costly. If you see, if you're going to see, it's going to be really, the numbers are going to be mind-boggling if you see. So that is the objective, basically continuity in leadership and to avoid costly vacancies. And one should keep in mind here, if I'm mentioning leadership, it does not mean leadership alone. Actually, succession planning, strictly speaking, it is applicable at all levels, not only for leadership levels, at all levels, but predominantly for leadership positions and critical positions. But at all levels, succession planning should be in place, right from the lowest level to the highest level in the hierarchy, right? So another important point is we need to, as a HR, we need to identify, recognize, and promote the development of high potential employees. Many employees will be there. Each one has got a different potential. So we need to identify that, and we need to promote the development of those employees. Identification is very important. Basically, it is done by multiple managers. If you leave it to a single manager, there will be bias. It will be done by multiple managers, multiple leaders, and HR has got a role to play of a facilitator, and HR has to ensure there is fairness in the process. Okay, there should be fairness in the process. There should not be any discrimination. There should be fairness, and it should promote the development of a right talent. Okay, at the right time, basically. If you're going to again go beyond the timelines, then it will be expensive. So it applies to all employees, as I mentioned. So the focus predominantly is on critical positions. So these are some of the examples. See, what are critical positions? Basically, revenue generating positions. Which position generates the maximum revenue? In pharma, maybe R&D, which is doing the rounds now, especially in this pandemic period of pandemic. If you see, pharmaceutical companies are doing extremely well at an all-time high. Their market value is at an all-time high. So R&D is a key position. In pharmaceutical, maybe the auto industry, now they are moving into the electric vehicles. R&D is a key position. Your sales will be a key department, provided your product is standardized. If the product is universal across the globe, okay, say Pepsi or Coke kind of thing, it is a standardized product, right? So there your sales will be a differentiator. Your sales team will be a key position, will be a critical position, because the products are same, the technology is mostly the same. There is no differentiation, but you have to sell the product with a unique selling proposition. You have to do that. So sales become a critical part. Whereas if the technology is a critical part, then sales has a less role to play. Sales has a less role to play. It may not come under the critical position. If technology assumes a significant importance in the company's product. And the second one is difficult to replace positions. Certain positions are really difficult to replace. Those should be considered as critical positions. Maybe the demand was the supply in the market for the particular position. Maybe for a particular programmer in the market, for the particular language or the latest language, maybe for data analytics in a FMCG company may be a critical position, if you see. So basically the demand was supply is another factor which you need to keep in mind while identifying the critical position. The general norm is 10% of the positions in any company, not more than 10% in any company, cannot be more than 10%. Critical positions cannot be more than 10%. If it is more than 10%, there is something seriously wrong there. Then last one is the positions which have a long training cycle duration, especially when you are developing patents, when you are developing licenses, etc. Again, in the pharma industry, it has a long training cycle, right? It has to go through various stages of approval, and finally the product has to come out. So people may leave, so their knowledge retention is crucial. So the duration of training, or the long training cycle, right? If the particular position has a long training cycle, or a duration of the training is long, then that is considered as a critical position. These are some of the key things. How do you determine what is a critical position, what is not a critical position? So as I mentioned, it's not only for the current roles, but also for the future roles. Okay. So just to check on the time, it's 5:30. So alignment with other HR functions. So this actually we saw in the introduction, which sir had given a brief introduction. So it cannot operate in isolation, sir. The succession planning cannot operate in isolation. If you do it in isolation, then the objective of the whole exercise goes for a 6. What I mean here is you have to integrate it with other HR processes like performance management system, learning and development, and career management. Because if you do it in isolation, you will be developing a person for a particular position, but that it may not be aligned with his career interests. Okay, he may be forced to occupy that position. So that is the reason why you will have to have a holistic approach rather than an isolated approach. So this is what I'm trying to say here. So career management, there are two things here. One is career plan. Second one is career management. Career plan is the responsibility of the individual. Okay, you can note it down. It is not here. Career planning is the responsibility of the individual. Organization cannot do the career planning for you. Okay. So career management, whereas managing the career of an individual, this is something different. That is the responsibility for the organization. Basically aligning the individual's career aspirations with the organization's aspirations. If I do something, it should benefit the organization. I cannot do it in isolation. I cannot do all the courses at the expense of the organization and join somewhere else. So it should benefit the organization. It's basically a win-win. That is there in career management. Basically, you create talent pools, and those candidates in those talent pools are exposed to various roles. They get various insights, etc. Then moving on to learning and training and development. There is learning and development. basically you need to identify the training needs. What are the competency gaps for the role which the individual is ready to occupy, maybe down the line in 18 months or 36 months. There is a timeline. Basically, timeline is also important. Within the time frame, what are the gaps? What is the training roadmap for that particular individual, and how he is going to achieve the objective? So that should be taken into consideration. Both are different. Basically, training and development are different. Training is basically for short-term needs, and development is for long-term needs. Okay. So here we are speaking about development. Then moving on to performance management system, you should give the feedback to the individual on the areas where he has to improve. So that is why I'm saying it has to be integrated, and you should mentor the individual, the particular individual. You should do a mentoring, and you should give a regular feedback, not at the fag end of the year. Basically, a regular feedback how he is progressing, so that he can do a course correction in between. So that is the way it has to be aligned with other HR functions. So let me move on to the next one: components of successful succession planning. See, basically, it should have a buy-in from the top management and senior leadership. So HR can only play a facilitating role. It only can act as a facilitator and can frame guidelines for the succession planning. It should have a buy-in from the top management. Any initiative without the support of the top management will not serve its purpose. So you should have a clearly defined leadership criteria. What I'm trying to say is each organization has a set of leadership values. Okay. Tata's may have one set of values, M&M may have another set of values, or Hindustan Unilever may have another set of values. Okay, you need to see whether the individual's value is aligned with the organizational value. So that is important. Otherwise, the individual will be leaving the organization. So that is the leadership criteria. So the concerned potential candidate should meet the defined leadership criteria. You cannot change the leadership criteria to the individual. For suppose for the individual, suppose one of the leadership criteria is say customer centricity or professionalism. If the particular candidate is not possessing that criteria, right, then you cannot just fit in that person for the position. It will be a wrong fit. It will be a wrong fit. So you should have a predetermined leadership criteria. I am not saying that we are going to exclusively focus on leadership for succession. So it's one of the important factors. So the organization should have a plan to find, retain. Okay, basically to find whether from inside or outside, retain, how you are going to retain, because your high pots are always in demand, always on demand in the market, and how you are going to motivate. Different people have different motivations. Okay, and it should be a simple, easy to follow, measurable process. It should not be complex. You should frame some metrics at the any initiative should have an evaluation mechanism. Otherwise if it is any initiative which is not measurable, then how you'll showcase the success of the initiative? So that is what I'm trying to say here, which we'll see there at the end. I'm having one slide on evaluating the effectiveness of the succession planning. So basically it should be part of the organizational culture. That is what I mean by OC here. So this I mentioned, it should not focus only on leadership development. It should not focus too much heavily on leadership development. Okay, that focuses heavily but not exclusively on leadership development. It should focus on other metrics also. So it should be the last one is organizational priority. Anything which is not a priority for the organization, then it's of no use. It should be organizational priority. So here we'll take a pause. Okay. So I request you to go to menti.com. 1 minute. So you can go to menti.com. Just a minute. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah, you can take your mobile, go to menti.com and use the code mentioned there and express your views about the role of HR in succession planning. There is no right or wrong answer. It is open-ended question. There is no right or wrong answer. You can go there and type it. Done? It's coming. You are
Yes,
able
sir,
to.
we are typing here.
Yeah. How is another? The screen done. The screen done. It's coming, yeah. Only 2 responses. Fast. We'll have to move on because there's a big job there on the case study. Managing the talent in a proper way, HR acts as a facilitator. Great opportunity for HR to exhibit his business strategic insights to the top management. The role of HR in succession planning is that of architect and facilitator, and it is not to make key selection decisions on behalf of the organization. So basically, participants are saying the role of HR is a facilitator, hiring the best talent, initiator and facilitator, strategy planner, architect and facilitator, okay, we'll just stop this and go to the next one. So basically what the feedback we are getting is the HR has to play the role of a facilitator and advise the top management and picking up the right best talent in the market available. So that is the feedback we are getting. Okay. So the screen is visible, sir?
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
So, okay. So let us go on to deep dive into the case study. Okay. We'll deliberate on the case study. It's going to take some time actually. The case study is about the do's and don'ts of senior leadership succession planning. Okay. It's an interesting case on hand. Okay. There are some terminologies which you need to maybe you will be having the presentation. If you are interested, you can make note of it. Just I'll go I'll try to spend maximum time here rather than the other subtitles. So the case what I have in hand is that of Microsoft. Okay, so if you see, so the chief executive was Steve Ballmer. Okay, he announced stepping down from the position of the chief executive in the year 2013, August 2013. That is 8 years before. We are in 2021. So in 2013, he announced that he is going to step down from the position of chief executive, so that his replacement could be found. So this is the case. So please understand this. This is the case. So at that time, that is in 2013,
Sir,
Microsoft.
excuse me, sir.
Pardon, sir?
Sir, your screen is not visible, sir.
That is what I'm asking. Yeah.
Can you orally repeat?
No, 1 minute. No, I'll just share because without the screen, you cannot be able to see it. Just a minute, sir. Sorry. Now it's visible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir,
Now
it
it's
is.
visible.
Yeah. Okay. So the case on hand is that of the Microsoft. So in August 2013, he announced that he is willing to step down from the position of chief executive so that he can leave space for the next person to come in. That is 8 years before it happened. And the next one is, if you see at that time in 2013, Microsoft was the third most profitable company in the US and the fourth most valuable company in terms of market valuation. So if you see here MS means not MS Dhoni, it is Microsoft. So here MS never had a succession plan to replace Ballmer. They never had a succession plan, even though he underperformed for many years, according to few critics. According to few critics and many observers, he was underperforming. Underperforming in the sense is the entry of Microsoft's foray into technology or mobile applications was late. That is what the critics say. Okay. I'll just specifically I'll read out that so that you can understand. Basically a slow move into the mobile, social media, and video, along with ill-fated acquisitions. There are also ill-fated acquisitions. That is the observation. So the second point is a few high-profile executives in Microsoft had quit during his tenure. So that also added to the woo. Okay. So to name a few, if you see, the Windows chief, Stephen Sinofsky, and ex-boss head, Don Matrick. So they have jumped during his tenure. So Microsoft still concentrated on external hires only. It was not focusing on internal hires. Please keep that in mind. It was concentrating on external hires. It's a large company, right? It's a global conglomerate. It's a global giant, technology giant. So it was focusing on external hires, even though it has more than 1 lakh employees. Maybe they didn't feel that they don't have somebody potential inside the organization who can fit into the shoes of Steve Ballmer. So according to the search committee director, okay, who chaired the search committee. So director is the chairperson of the search committee. So they have identified more than 100 candidates. Then they talked to several dozen and then they focused intensely only on 20. So among the two were favorites. One was Qualcomm's person, Steve Mollenkopf. So he was obviously promoted to top job in Qualcomm itself. So having known the news, Qualcomm promoted him to the top job. So that's ruled out now, right? Then Alan Mulally. So you would have heard this name read in the papers. He was the person responsible for the turnaround of Ford, from bringing Ford from red into green, from losses into profit. So he was considered, he was tipped to replace Ballmer. Almost it was identified that he is going to replace. But what happened next? In January 14, exactly 6 months after, from August 2013 to January 14, 6 months after, MS Microsoft made a U-turn back to square one, took off his name. So they turned to plan B, that is internal, filling the position, a top position with a internal candidate. Right, so far clear? So far clear, sir?
So far, very
Yes, sir.
clear.
Yeah. So now what is history? So Satya Nadella, the third CEO in Microsoft's history, third CEO in Microsoft's history. So after Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, and Satya Nadella, he was the third CEO. So he was made the CEO, which we all know. So he was a terrific pick, right? Many inventions were made by him, whatever you see now. So the stock rose 30% in the first 9 months, the moment he was appointed. The stock actually went northwards. So if you are following the market, you know. So 30% in the first 9 months. So these are the good signals of the new appointment of the new CEO. Increase the market valuation by $9 billion. I'm not speaking about the total market valuation. Already the market valuation would have been X. From that, it has gone up to another 9 billion in 9 months. Then imagine $9 billion US dollars. It became the second most valuable company in 7 years by 2020. From 2013 to 2020, 7 years, from third most valuable company, it became second most valuable company. He's basically insider, right? He has been in Microsoft for the past 21 years before he was made CEO. So what if analysis? Okay, we are going to speak about what if analysis. If external candidate had been appointed, if Microsoft had stuck to its original decision of appointing an external hire rather than focusing on internal candidates. So why board here means board of directors? Why Microsoft's board hadn't already been grooming Nadella or any of his women? There is not only one Nadella, there are many Nadella, right? Inside the company of a size of to the magnitude of Microsoft. Why they have not recognized similar qualified peers? It's a question to ponder with. So basically what the crux is, even in many companies, even in large corporations like Microsoft, there is inadequate importance given to succession planning, which has led to this debacle. Ultimately, Microsoft is lucky enough. All companies cannot consider themselves lucky enough. Microsoft is lucky enough to have Satya Nadella. So it led to a debacle. What many large corporations don't give adequate importance to succession planning. So what are the outcomes of flawed succession practices? So there would be excessive turnover among senior executives at the top level. There is a significant value erosion for companies in terms of market valuation, etc., which we will see one by one. So this is again data. So the market value in S&P is Standard and Poor's. It's 1,500 top 1,500 companies in the US. It's a S&P 1,500 is a market index of US stock market. So market valuation, if you see, almost $1 trillion dollars has been eroded, which is equal to, I have converted this into the INR value, 74 lakhs, not 74 lakhs, 74 lakh crores. Okay, 74 lakh crores. This is the data presented in the case because of poor succession planning. Just imagine 74 lakh crores. So if there is a proper succession planning, 20 to 25%, the valuation of the company and the investor returns would have been higher. Okay. This is per annum, sir. This market valuation erosion is per annum of top 1,500 companies. So 20 to 25% company valuation and investor returns would have been higher per year if there is proper succession planning. So see the impact. Imagine the impact of inadequate succession planning. So that is the importance. So this is the way you need to present the case as a CHRO to your business leader. So now let us see the examination. Okay, let us see the findings and the recommendations, and how to improve the corporate performance and the returns. Okay, what are the examination? We will see what are the findings, basically the inference from the study and the recommendations. So let us quantify the problem. Okay. Generally, if you see in large companies, that is why it is told here. Even sir was mentioning during the beginning, large companies he was mentioning, which is a valid point in large companies. So if you see this, external leadership hiring is the biggest problem in large companies. Please note that. I'm not speaking about small companies. It's a different ball game altogether as far as small companies are concerned. So it's the biggest problem in large companies. So there are three major kinds of costs associated with it because of the improper succession planning. This is very important. This is the crux of the case. First is underperformance. Okay. Second is loss of intellectual capital. Third one is poor performance of ill-prepared. D is missing there. Ill-prepared successors. For companies promoting internally, some companies will promote internally, right? The leaders. So some leaders are ill-prepared for the top position. So these are the three major kinds of costs. We'll see that in detail. So the study by Harvard Business School on the first cost alone, that is underperformance alone, we will discuss now. Then obviously we look into the second and third also. This first one was conducted by HBS, Harvard Business School. If you see the impact it had on different types of CEO succession. So they took the data of 200 large companies for a period of 15 years. So these are the various permutations and combinations. If you see, 4 combinations are there. First is insider promoted in a company which is doing well. Company is doing well, insider is promoted. That is enough. Keep that in mind. Company is doing well, okay, and insider is promoted. Company is not doing well. That is, company is doing poorly. That is the second scenario. Third scenario is outsider is promoted in a company which is doing reasonably well. Fourth scenario is outsider is promoted in a firm doing poorly. That is performing poorly, performing badly. Badly means I'm speaking about in financial terms. So these are the 4 scenarios. We'll see what would have happened if an insider got promoted in a firm which is doing good. What would have happened if an insider promoted in a firm which is not doing good? What would have happened if an outsider promoted in a firm doing reasonably well or poor? We'll see that. The findings of the Harvard Business School study. Okay, the first finding is insiders didn't change. Overall findings, insiders on the 4 scenarios, the first findings is insiders didn't change the performance much. Why? We'll see that. This is important. People working in similar company in similar ways produce similar results. They are working in the same company in similar style. They produce similar results. So there will not be much impact. If you take outsiders, the change was extreme. So when company is performing poorly, keep in mind when there are four scenarios. When company is performing poorly, outsiders bring some value. So they improve the performance of the company. When the company is performing poorly, this is based on the study compiled for 200 companies over a period of 15 years. So when performing reasonably well, outsiders destroy value. See how interesting it is. When the company is performing poorly, they do well. When the company is performing well, they destroy value. It's really interesting. So others, that is the Harvard study. So other studies, if you see, WB is Wharton Business School. Okay. So what they say is outsiders have better education and experience compared to insiders. They are paid more, perform worse. Very interesting, no? Paid more, perform worse. Higher exit rates. Similarly, other studies conducted, what they say? Again, they say they precisely say they are paid 15% more. Outsiders are paid 15% more than the insiders, and the chance of exit is 84% in the first 3 years due to poor performance. So imagine the performance is also poor, so they also leave. So you can see the value erosion. XUComp data. So despite these downsides, whatever we have seen from hiring an outsider in large corporations, again, I'm insisting in large companies, not in small companies. In large companies, the Standard & Poor's 1500 index, the data, if you see, 26% of the time they hired from outside only during the period 2014 to 18 for the period of 4 years. Out of 1,000, if there are 1,000 hires externally, 100 hires externally, 26 hires were external CEO. The reason is the organization's illogical bias. Irrational here means illogical bias towards whom they know less about. People who are inside, we know very well. But people who are outside, we don't know much about it. Again, psychometrics has got a role to play there. But having said that, yes, it's illogical bias because we feel outsiders bring in, as you saw on the previous slide, they have better education and experience. So it's illogical bias, basically.
ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾದ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಬರ ಮುಂದ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಬ ನಾಳೆ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬರ್ತೈತಿ.
Somebody wants to ask something? Okay, some crossed off. Okay, then moving on to this, again, one data point is S&P 500 companies, best 500 companies. What the data says here is 70% of the CEOs performed better during the first time around. What it means? What it means? Can anybody tell? Unmute and tell this point. Anybody can unmute and tell, please.
Initially, they are alert. People who are coming from outside.
Okay.
So they are very conscious and alert and wanting to do some turnaround. Hence, they do well.
Correct. Yes, sir, you are right. That is the first time around. Which means they would have already been a CEO in a company. They would have moved to another company. Basically, there are 3 companies. The first company, the particular gentleman or a lady would have worked. So he or she would have moved to the second company. She or he would have moved to the second company. Second company, they would have performed well. First time around. That is first time around. So 70%. But whereas if you see the third time, if they move to some other company, they don't perform. That is what they are trying to say. So now we will see how external CEOs performed when compared to insiders. So this data, again, based on the case study, if you see, so they have actually extrapolated the data because they have the data for external CEOs. For internal data, they have used some regression analysis. a multiple regression analysis with the 80 independent variables, right? With 80 independent variables and with the particular performance metrics, which we are going to see now. It's very interesting. They've done a multiple regression analysis. They've used one model from a Nobel Prize winner, which I will show now. It's called structural self-selection modeling. So this model was basically framed by a Nobel Prize winner. I'll let you know the name later. It is something like multiple regression analysis. Okay. So it's basically used for forecasting before and after change of a CEO. So that is how before what was the performance, after what was the performance. So 80 independent variables. So multiple regression is you will have one constant which will be correlated with other independent variables, multiple variables, more than two variables. If you are going to correlate with one variable, then it is a simple linear regression. So you are going to do a multiple regression analysis here. So 80 independent variables, if you see here, what are those variables? The size of the company, the capital expenditure, sector, risk, board structure, short range and long range performance, etc., etc. So the metric which they had correlated with this was cash flow return on assets. Okay, please note down this cash flow return on assets. So this cash flow return on assets was correlated with these 80 independent variables, and then they derived a score and they compared the performance. We will see that. So what is the change in the cash flow return of assets was calculated? That's what I was trying to say. This is the metric which they used to compare the performance between internal versus external CEOs. Cash flow return on assets. What would have been CFRIS cash flow return on assets if insider was promoted? So if external CEO was promoted, data is there. In case of internal, there is no data. So they did this multiple regression analysis. So it's a counterfactual. Okay, it's not a factual, it's a counterfactual. So they took the companies listed in US over a 17-year period. So the findings were after the analysis, the findings were 39% of external CEOs, 39% of eCEOs means external CEOs performed better than, that is why I put greater than, performed better than theoretically, not realistically, theoretically, because it's again extrapolation of data. Theoretically, the internal CEOs, I is internal CEOs. So 39% of the external CEOs performed theoretically better than internal CEOs. That is the finding. That is the findings of the companies listed in USA over a 17-year period. So again here is what it's saying is internal CEOs perform better than external CEOs. That is inference we are getting. Only in 7.2% of instances, 7.2% of instances, that is the external CEOs performed better than internal CEOs. Okay, 2.8% of instances, external CEO, that is 90%, external CEOs performed better than internal CEOs. So to calculate the loss, if you see in the earlier slide, we saw three factors, major factors. One is underperformance, and second is loss of intellectual capital, and third one was basically when a person moves to a new company, if an insider, ill prepared insider is promoted, what is the loss? So these three things we will see. Okay. Loss of intellectual capital, IC is intellectual capital in corporate suits of firms from where they were hired. Okay, how much knowledge is lost, we will see. So The first one is that is 0.7% reduction in total shareholder return. TSR is total shareholder return, or $225 billion per year. If the first scenario is the loss incurred in a company and in the previous company. If a person is moving to a new company, if a candidate is moving to a new company as a leader, the loss for the previous company, because some knowledge is lost, no intellectual capital is lost. In the previous company, he would have been in a leadership position, or he would have even been a CEO. This loss is with respect to the previous employer, the first one, which is the highest. Okay, here you will have to quantify the loss with respect to the previous employer, current employer, and internal promotion. So this is with respect to the previous employer. Total shareholder returns, there was a erosion of 0.7% or $225 billion. Second one is 0.5% reduction in total shareholder returns, or $182 billion per year. This is in the new company which they go. This is with respect to the new employer in which they go, because of hiring a external person. First two are with the external person. Third one is ill-prepared internal leader. If you had promoted an ill-prepared, these are the three factors which we saw a couple of slides ago. Maybe not a couple of, maybe 4 or 5 slides ago we saw. Third one is 0.3%. If you had promoted an ill-prepared internal CEO, which is the lowest, $139 billion per year. Person who is not prepared well. If a person is prepared well, okay, well prepared, okay. If he is not prepared, and if you are promoting an internal person, the loss is to the tune of $139 billion, whooping $139 billion per year, which is again the lowest among the three scenarios. So these three scenarios, I am repeating it. The first one is for the loss incurred in the previous employer. The second one is the loss incurred to the new employer because of the new leader. The third one is, what is the third one? Can anybody tell?
Loss incurred due to promoting ill-prepared internal person.
Beautiful, correct. So all put together, if you see, $546 billion per year is the total loss. See what is the impact it is having. So we'll move on to the negative byproduct of poor succession planning. Okay, one is the rising costs of CEO compensation. So top 350 US companies had an average compensation per year of $17 million US. What is INR in crores, sir? Somebody calculate and tell. It's already 6:15. My God. Okay, somebody calculate and tell. What is the $17 million per year average compensation of CEOs of top 350 US companies? Convert into Indian rupee. That is why I have not mentioned the rupee. Okay, anyway, I'll tell you, we are running out of time. 126 crores per annum. Imagine the salary, 126 crores per annum. So from 1978 to 2018, it has gone up by 1,000 times, the CEO compensation in US. A 278x of individual average employees compensation. It is almost 300 times of an average employee's compensation. Though we see these stunning figures, it only has a small role in value destruction. CEO's compensation plays a small role in value destruction as compared to the other earlier three we saw. The CEO's compensation with respect to the previous three factors has only a small value. So large firms versus small firms. Large firms primarily internal. Primarily you go with internal hires. That is what the case says. And small firms, obviously, it's not an issue. Predominantly external hires are preferred in case of small firms. So why are world's largest powerful companies getting the hiring wrong of the top position? And what are the solutions for it? Okay, basically adequate importance is not given to succession planning. That is a major reason. Adequate importance is not given to succession planning. Even in the case of Microsoft, you saw. So, what are the solutions? For solutions, I have listed down. First one is succession should be planned the moment the new leader enters the organization. A new leader joins today and is appointed for next X number of years. Today itself, the succession planning should begin for him. So, you should identify and develop your rising stars, your high pots. Here, you should give equal opportunity to all. Okay, equal opportunity should be given. There is a difference between equity and equality, which I will not explain now for want of time. You can note down. Here the term is equity versus equality. Please note down that equal opportunity employer, they say. So you should give equal opportunity. For example, there is only one position. You need to induct 3 people to the board. So all 3 get equal opportunity and watch them. And finally, you select one. Then you can ask the question, what will happen to the other 2 prominent candidates, potential candidates. The other 2 potential candidates will be moved to a new business area, will be given new wider challenges, or will be or are we developing leaders for other organization? It's a $1 billion question. Are we developing leaders for other organizations? Because some people leave if you don't give the top position. So the most promising executive in a fair manner and give them more access. So look at both internal and external candidates. Don't have a very narrow view, have a broad view. So this last one is really important, especially for especially the role the HR has to play is the last point. So if you're going to partner with search consultants, so avoid perverse incentives. Generally for top positions, you'll only have to go to the consultants. I'm just taking some time here. It is important. You'll only have to go to the consultants if you are not able to handle it internally. One, and second, you'll have to check the what role the consultant is going to play. Whether he's going to play an advisory role. What is the contingency plan? Because generally 1/3 of the compensation and bonus you will have to give as the um, uh, you'll have to give as a fees, professional fees to the consultant. That is a big cost, right? That is a very big cost. So keep that in mind and check for references and how he is going to add value to the C-suite hiring. So again, quickly go to this and you can type this code just quick. So other slides I will skip. You can quickly go to this and just type this code. Wait for the code to get generated. You can type it. You're able to see the code?
Yes, sir.
So I want responses, at least some minimum 10. There's no right or wrong answer, sir. Don't feel bad about it. Nobody knows everything. Only one has given. Pass. Okay, we have got 8 responses. Maybe others are finding it difficult, maybe. Actually, succession planning is more complex in, okay, we'll stop here. Succession planning is more complex in global organizations. Okay. It's more complex in global organization. Please keep that in mind because you will have to have different competencies and different markets you are catering to, and it's more complex actually. It's completely a different geography. The complexity is more. Okay, we'll move on to the presentation. So common mistakes, just I'll quickly run through. So basically, the future staffing needs, the primary mistake which the organizations do is the future needs are based on current or past experience. So they don't foresee the future. What will be my future business look like? What are the future skills the business will require? What are the future competencies the business will require? What are the future products the company will launch? What are the future markets the company will foray into? Okay. Because in a VUCA world, it is ever dynamic, right? Disruption is happening every day. So another mistake is developing the succession planning in isolation, which we have discussed. It's a once a year event in many organizations. Along with the annual performance appraisal, they do it. They just do a replacement planning. Mark X for Y, Y for Z, Z for A, Sachin for Virat, Virat for in place of Virat, the Rahane, like that. They go just its names. They don't list out the competencies and they don't do it realistically. Okay. Then evaluation of succession planning effectiveness. So that that is what I was saying. I'll discuss about this. You need to develop metrics. Then only you can showcase to the CHRO can showcase to the business leader what is the metrics and where we are. So the one of the metrics is which you can have is the employee satisfaction with personal development initiative. How satisfied the employee is with the training opportunities, with the learning opportunities, with the development opportunities, etc. Second one is the management satisfaction with the employee performance and job readiness. Whether he'll be ready in 18 months, 3 years, 60 months. So the extent of goals achieved. So there will be various goals and the time to full function attainment. Here, one important data point, please note. This is again a finding from one of the studies, very important point, without any discrimination to the gender, I am telling. See, generally, if you see as per the study, if you see men are ready to occupy leadership positions if they are 60% ready. That is what the study says. You can note it down. It's not in the presentation. 60% ready. Whereas women, they are ready to occupy the positions only if they are 90% ready. And women are more reluctant to ask for pay revision and promotion. So they feel they should have at least 9 out of 10 competencies. If there are 10 competencies, 9 out of 10, they should be in the highest rating scale. Then only they feel that they are fit for the position. They are reluctant to take. But whereas men, even if they are 60% okay, they feel they are ready for the position. So the another one is evaluating the percentage of positions for which there are internal successes. This will be one of the KRA for a CHRO. If there are 10 critical positions, for each critical position, the KRA is to develop 3 successes in some time frame. Obviously, it will be the KRA for the concerned HOD also, the concerned head of the department, not only for HR. So, what is the number of external hires versus internal promotions? Another metric. And what is the retention rate with respect to high pots? How many high pots are leaving? and overall retention rate. These metrics you can have it. These will be the KRAs for the CHRO. So this I will not discuss in much. So many companies are just a broad thing. Many companies are doing only replacement planning. Okay, they are not doing succession planning. It's a quick fix approach. Okay, it's not a good thing to have. So replacement planning, you can go through that. I'll share the slides. Okay, basically succession planning targets long range needs. Replacement planning is for short term needs. It's only a quick fix approach, which is not good actually. So we'll go into the gamification quickly. So all of you can type kahoot.it. Okay, I'll tell you the code. The pin is visible. Pin will be generated now. You can type kahoot.it in your mobile. I'll not start. Once we have 20 participants, we can start. It's visible, sir. Screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
So one person has joined. Annie, live, Sahana. They are live only. I don't know that live. We are live here already. Pitra, Ashwati. Pass so that will be interesting. So Tia, Nagaraj, Kumar, Amurta, 8. Good. Pass. Right. Anandita. Okay. Vijay. I thought Vijay is in shooting here. Come here. Vashi. Bhakya. At least 2 more we'll have. We'll start at least 15. Yeah. Jagadish. KNK. Jagadish இப்பதான் உள்ள வந்திருக்காரு. KNK. Can we start?
Yes, please.
Anybody else wants to join? Just last 5-10 seconds. They have gone out. Okay, I'll start, sir. So here we go. You'll have 4 options. Objective of SP is succession planning. SP here means succession plan. 4 options. Okay, only 3 of you have got it right. Move on to the next. Sahana is leading the table, followed by Anandita, Live, Annie, and Pavitra. Strategic planning must be integrated with dash HR function for effective outcome. Very easy one. Sir, 4 of you have got it right. It's PMS, career management, and L&D, all three. Ahana is still holding the fort, followed by Bhakyalakshmi, Anandita. Nitya has moved up 2 notches. Amrita. It's a tough fight. We'll see. Next one is true or false. SP should focus only on leadership development. True or false? Very easy. All of you should get it right. Oh, 8 of you have got it right. Great, yeah. Only 11 are there. Huh? I don't know what happened to the remaining 4. One is the right one, and second one is how fast you are getting it right. Accordingly, the points will increase. Again, Sahana is still in the top place. Anandita, Nitya, Amrita, Annie. Key to strategic planning is support from leadership and top management. True or false? Don't go with the guess. Earlier one false, so is true. I didn't guess the false. All 11 have got it right. I'm happy. Good. Sashi. Come to 5th place. Good. Still Sahana's at the top. In the discussed case study, Microsoft initially focused to replace Chief Executive Steve Ballmer through A. Internal hire, B. External hire, both A and B. Option D is retired employee. Very easy one. What do large corporates do? Only 4 of you have got it right. Okay, I'll move on to the next. Sahana is still there. And Amrita is catching up slowly. We'll see. Again, true or false? Microsoft Board of Directors had a plan in place to replace its chief executive. Very easy. All 11 of you should get it right. Whether it had a plan in place to replace its chief executive? I think
No.
so. Nine. Still 2 of them are saying it's false. Actually, it is. Actually, no. Only 2 of them. 2 of them have got it right. 9 of them are saying they had a plan in place. Oh my God. Sahana is there, followed by Pavitra, Amurta, Sashi, and Annie. Next one. When the organization is performing badly, dash do well. The organization is not doing good. Whether outsiders do well, insiders, or both outsiders and insiders, or none of the above. Four of you are saying outsiders. Okay. And 2 of you, none of the above. Okay. Outsiders is the correct answer. And doing badly, outsiders make a turnaround. Right. Amurda is there. Sashi, 3522. Melavara Slova. Annie, Sahana, Anandita. Good. 8th one. Still 3 questions are there. Don't worry. When organization is performing good, dash destroy value. Carefully understand the question. Organization is performing good. Same answer, outsiders. I wanted to confuse you. Good. Amurda, from starting itself, she's there. Good. Annie is slowly catching up. Three questions are there. She can come there. Sahana also has got a good chance. Anandita and Sashi. We'll see. According to research, outsiders are paid dash percentage more than insiders. Very easy. Specifically, I told one of the research. Four of you have got it spot on. Great. It's 15% is the answer. We had it no in one of the slides. Oh, Amurda is way ahead, 5,403. Still 2 questions are there, it can change. In the discussed case, dash performance metric was used to calculate performance of external CEO versus internal CEOs. Very easy one, all 11 of you should get it right. Because the most important thing in the entire case study, the most important metric which is used for calculating the return before and after the change of the CEO. Only 3 got it right. Somebody is telling return on equity, return on capital employed. It's not employee, I'm sorry. Capital employed. Cash flow return on assets is the right answer. Good. 3 of you have got it right. Great. Amurda is way ahead. 6,227 points. Annie, Sahana, Anandita, Sashi. The last one. The highest loss during leader transition would occur in. Very easy. Very easy. 3 scenarios we saw. Which had the highest impact? Five of you have got it right. Yes, in previous companies where they were hired from. Why means because there is a knowledge loss. There is a knowledge erosion, loss of intellectual capital. There is a vacuum created in pre. Okay. Who's in the podium? Annie comes third. Anandita is number 2. And obviously, congratulations to all 3 of you. And runners up are Sashi and Sahana. Congratulations.
Triple A.
So with this, a minute. The gamification is over and almost we have come to the end. Almost its end. It's a wrap. We'll go to the Q&A and we'll conclude. Q&A, 3 questions I can take.
Sir, your comments on the internal succession failure of Vishal Shikha in Infosys and Mistry in Tata's, both done by reputed leaders like Narayana Murthy and Ratan Tata.
Vishal Shikha from Infosys and
Mr. Mistry, who was appointed by Ratan Tata, subsequently, they developed a dispute, expelled him. Both are misadventures. Both did not shine well. But the mistake is made by the reputed leader like Narayana Murthy, who brought in Vishal Shikha, and Ratan Tata, who brought in Mistry.
Okay. Both are external hires, right?
Yeah, both are external. Vishal Shikha is external hire brought with great compensation. Mistry looks like an internal hire, but it's a classical failures.
Yeah, true. Very much true, and it's a good question. These are maybe classic industry examples which you are quoting, and you are certainly right. With respect to Mistry, in my view, so I have a better information on that as compared to Vishal Sikka. It's more of a kind of a feud which happened between the stake which Mistry had and the stake which Ratan Tata had. It's basically the Palonji group where Mistry comes from. So if you see, basically there were differences in the values itself. There were differences in the value system itself. That is one of the primary reasons, I would say, as far as Kiki Mistry is concerned. As far as Vishal Sikka is concerned, I don't have much information about it, sir. Basically, it's about the values as far as Mistry is concerned. That is what I read from the.
Your daughters are perfect. Even though Mistry concentrated on cash flow of assets, he didn't understand the value system of Tata's and Ratan Tata. That's where he went wrong.
Who's this, sir? Who had a discussion with me, sir? Can I have the name?
Is Nagaraj Kumar. I'm also a ex-HR head of Larsen and Toubro.
Great, sir. Great from a great company. Thank you. Good question. So Vishal Sikka, I don't have much information, sir. But Tata is known for its values. Okay. Tata is always known for its values. Yeah. Next question.
Again from me, is succession planning mandated right now in all Indian organizations, or it remains more as a kind of a, it's a pickle. When we want, we will use it. Otherwise, it is not the books.
It's not mandated by any law, sir. You saw the impact, no? How many $1 billion you saw? You saw the CEO compensation of top 350 companies. You saw the valuation in the market capitalization, market valuation. You saw the stock price. So it's not to survival of the fittest. Okay, to survive, you need to have this. Not only to survive, to sustain. I would say, question of survival is gone. To sustain, especially in a dynamic, in a VUCA world currently, we really do not know what is going to happen tomorrow. In any industry, automobile is going to face the biggest disruption in the coming, the next 20 years, I would say. What has happened to your, print media industry? All are reading e-newspapers. What has happened to the textbooks? E-books have come. So what has happened to the digital camera? So succession planning is a board level subject. And again, as I said, it has to be done in a holistic way, in a fair manner, in a genuine way, in an ethical way, so that the company will survive. If the company survives, if the company gets better returns, shareholder will get good returns, employees will also get good hike. So it is a board level subject, I would say, board level topic. But it's very important for all organizations. As I already quoted, a son is not willing to take over the father's business. Then what do you do with it? Father is having it's a live example, sir. Father is having a restaurant chain. Son is not willing to do it. Okay, son is not willing. It's a good restaurant chain. I don't want to mention the name. Son is not willing to do it. So it's a necessity, I would say, for your business to exist. Because after 70 years, the average Indian age is 70. After 70 years, who will take care of the company if it is a family-run business? I don't know whether I have answered your query. Whatever I little know, I have answered.
Yeah, sir, you have more than answered. And I have one suggestion. Like international case studies are available in Google. Indian case studies are not recorded. Many valuable lessons are available in India itself, but we are not having access because nobody records, nobody is seeing. So something like HR community can take up this and keep a record of Indian case studies.
Okay. Any other questions, sir, from anybody? From the student community, any other questions? I'd be happy to take one question from the students.
Sir, there is a question on chat box, sir.
Yeah,
Can
you
I read
read
it out, sir?
Yeah.
How to make succession planning effective? That
We
was
saw
the question,
that.
sir.
We saw that the 7 components of succession planning to make it effective. We saw that it should be basically it should be an organizational priority. Okay. It should be an organizational priority, and you should have determined leadership criteria, and there should be leadership support.
Okay, sir.
Okay, those 7 points you can take. We saw it in the presentation.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah, that is the way to make it effective. It should not be once in a year exercise like Diwali or Pongal.
Yes, sir. I understood.
Yeah. Any other questions? Who was that?
It's from Meghaja, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's it, sir. So
Okay.
now
Then,
I request. Now I request Narendran from second year MA HRM to render the vote of thanks.
so this is my contacts. You can just take it. Oh, I've just shared.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for the good participation.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe it's 6:42. So sorry for the this thing overshooting the time.
That's not a problem, sir. Narendran, please render the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Vijay Raghavan. Thank you, sir, for the insightful session. Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. I, Narendran of 2nd MA HRM, take this wonderful opportunity to thank our esteemed speaker, Mr. Chidambaram, Head of HR and Administration, Indian Additives Limited, for sharing his valuable insights and knowledge on the topic, role of HR in succession planning. I would like to share a few key takeaways from today's session. Succession planning is a talent management strategy. Avoid perverse incentives if you partner with search consultants. Even in large corporations, lack of succession planning leads to falsified outcomes. We, the future HRs, would really work on understanding provided by our lively HR speaker. Sharing is caring is an old age proverb. True to this thought, I would like to thank our PG Department of HRM's pillar, our Honorable HOD Professor Dr. N.C. Martin, for arranging this webinar, and Ms. Sneha for her constant support to organize this webinar, for providing us with an enlightening tour to the pragmatic arena of HR. Finally, I extend my gratitudes from all participants of various professions and students of various colleges. Kindly fill up the feedback form which is provided in the chat box below with your name and email ID. Stay safe, stay home, stay vaccinated. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Good. Thank you for the opportunity, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidambaram sir. It's a great learning from you. Great insight.
I trust at least some students got at least some 50% insights.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. True.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Looking forward to collaborate with you in future also.
Sure, thank you. We can collaborate and we can meet in the forthcoming sessions.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.